In today's session at Medical Sciences Made Easy, we want to look at electrolytes under clinical chemistry. And this electrolyte is taught under renal function tests. So we want to see what are the electrolytes. And in this video, we are going to discuss different cations and anions. Then we shall look at functions of electrolytes. Then we shall see causes of high or low of some of the electrolytes. And then we shall end with the disorders in case electrolytes are not balancing in the body. And we remind you to subscribe, to share your comments, and like the video for the betterment of our channel. So we are seeing electrolytes, and the word electrolytes comes from the word electro, means charged. So we see these electrolytes, they are solutes, they are charged solutes. Charged solutes in solution, and these charged solutes can either be positively charged or negatively charged. And those which are negatively charged, they are known as anions. Those which are positively charged are known as cations. So that is electrolytes. So electrolytes, these are charged particles in a solution, or charged solutes in a solution. And these charged particles can either be positively charged or negatively charged. And those which are cations, we shall see different examples of cations, whereby we shall have the positively charged one, which we are calling cations, that they have positive charge, and they include, the major one is sodium, they include potassium, they include magnesium, and here they include calcium. These are the major cations we see under clinical chemistry. Then the anions, these are negatively charged. They include, the most abundant one is chloride, followed by the bicarbonate. We have the bicarbonate, we have the proteins and phosphates. So the phosphates, the proteins, the bicarbonate, and the chloride, these are anions, or they are negatively charged. And among these cations and anions, as we move on, we are going to see those which are found in the extracellular matrix, what we call extracellular fluid. Extracellular fluid is the fluid outside the cells, whereas intracellular fluid is that fluid inside the cells. So in extracellular fluid, among the cations, if we are talking about cations, we are going to see under extracellular, we have majorly sodium and calcium, but the principal cation, extracellular cation, is sodium. So the principal is sodium, but another cation found outside the extracellular matrix is calcium. But whenever you ask an objective that which of the following is the principal cation, that is sodium in the extracellular fluid. That is in extracellular fluid. But the principal cation in intracellular fluid is potassium. Potassium is the principal cation in the intracellular, or inside. Because this is a cell, we are seeing the outside cell is extracellular, then inside the cell is what we are calling intracellular. And the principal intracellular cation is potassium. Then we shall also find there magnesium. We shall find there magnesium, but the principal being potassium. Then among the anions, those which are negatively charged, the principal anion in the extracellular fluid is chloride. Iron is the principal anion in the extracellular fluid, and also bicarbonate. These are found in the extracellular fluid. They are anions found in the extracellular fluid, Whereas intracellular anions, those which are negatively charged, include the principal one inside the cell is the phosphate. Then where we also have the proteins being the intracellular. So the principal intracellular anion is the phosphate. So the phosphate is the principal anion intracellularly, then extracellularly is chloride. Then the principal cation extracellular is sodium. The principal cation intracellular is potassium. So whenever you ask those object multiple choice questions, always remember the principal cation in extracellular fluid, that is sodium. Then in intracellular fluid, that is potassium. Then the principal anion in extracellular fluid is chloride, whereas in intracellular fluid is phosphate ions. And after understanding these cations and anions, both charges must balance. If we have for example, sodium is 135 in extracellular matrix. If the cations, total cations, which have a positive charge at 35, even the total cations inside, they should be 135, the positive charges. If anions in intracellular fluid, maybe they are 5, even outside they should be 5. So meaning the cations in intracellular, or the charges in intracellular and extracellular, they must always balance. And we shall also look at that. So after seeing different cations, now we want to see what are the major functions of these cations. Functions of electrolytes. And we shall see electrolytes like sodium and chloride. Sodium doing a big role in maintaining osmotic, maintaining blood fluid balance. It balancing the blood fluid, or fluid balance, or water balance, even maintaining blood pressure, And this sodium is also plays a role in the impulse transmission, plays an important role in the transmission of impulses, transmission of nerve impulses, by creating what we call an action potential. Then the chloride, this same work is done by the chloride, but addition of the chloride also does a great role in the production of hydrochloric acid in the stomach. That is also another important role, that this chloride combines with the hydrogen or the proton ions to form hydrochloric acid in the stomach. Then the principal function of calcium in the body, we see calcium playing a big role in the release of neurotransmitters. It also plays a big role in the impulse transmission, nerve impulse transmission of nerve impulses across the synapse, across the neuromuscular junction. We see it participating in muscle contraction. Muscle contraction plays a big role there. Then electrolytes like magnesium, they play a big role in acting as cofactors in the presence of different enzymes that catalyze reactions like the DNA and RNA formation, that is hexose monophosphate shunt, acting as a cofactor in glucose metabolism, and many other enzymes which need magnesium as a cofactor. And this also magnesium also helps in the formation of bonds, bone formation, and not forgetting that calcium also participates in bone formation. Then after looking at that, there is another cation known as potassium, and this potassium enables us in maintaining heart rate, what we call heartbeat. by causing or what we call the rhythm of the heartbeat. It is maintained by the potassium ions, at the same time also enabling transmission of impulses, transmission of nerve impulses, maintaining the body fluid balance is also by the potassium. So these are the different functions of it. So whenever you're asked in a question that outline any 5 or any 10 functions of electrolytes, you can pick at random and give an example. So whenever you say they enable transmission of impulses, and avoid using the word here, you can say it is for transportation, it is for this acting as a cofactor, but don't say it helps. So whenever you ask like 10 functions of electrolytes, you can always pick one but give an example. If you say maintaining blood pressure, you say example like sodium or chloride. If you say transmission of nerve impulse, example is like sodium or potassium. If you say bone formation, you give an example like calcium and phosphate together with magnesium. If you say maintaining the heart rhythm, an example is like potassium. So you give examples per each function of an electrolyte. So these are the major functions we can talk about, and also at the end, round we shall look at the different application. How does respiratory acidosis and alkalosis comes from? So whenever we determine electrolytes in the lab and we find their law, for example, we want to look at the causes of hypernatremia. We want to look at, in case in the body there is low sodium levels, whereby causes of hyponatremia. And the causes of hyponatremia, they will be the same causes of hypokalemia. At the same time, they can be the same causes of hyperkalemia, with exception which I will show you. But before we look at this, we need to know the reference range of each, whereby sodium, the reference range is 135 to 145. They are measured in millimoles per liter. Potassium is 3.5 to 5.0 millimoles per liter. Chloride is 97 to 107 millimoles per liter. So these are the normal electrolytes. These are the common electrolytes we do, but whenever the doctor requests extended electrolytes, then you add magnesium and calcium. So part of the extended electrolytes, we have magnesium and calcium as part of the extended electrolytes. So after seeing the reference ranges of sodium, of potassium, and chloride, we can look at the causes of hyponatremia, that is low levels of sodium, or low levels of chloride, or increased levels of potassium. And what causes this? One of the causes is congestive heart failure. Congestive heart failure. We can see decreased sodium when you are having vomiting, vomitus, or in diarrhea, whereby you're losing much of the sodium or the chloride in the stool or in the vomitus. But we can also see hyponatremia in Addison's disease. And this Addison's disease is what we call hypoaldosteronism, whereby the adrenal cortex is not releasing enough aldosterone to cause reabsorption of sodium. But this is peculiar. This one I'm going to put it in a box because this one is specific for sodium, not for, but it can act on both. So we are seeing Addison's disease also causing hyponatremia and hypokalemia and hyperkalemia. Why? because sodium is always found together with chloride. It is always in combination with chloride. So if anything that causes low sodium also causes low chloride because they exist together. Then we can see other causes like acute renal failure can do that. We can see it reduced in this condition, which we call syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone deficiency. Syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone. We see also this sodium reduced. And lastly, we can look at loop diuretics. Whenever someone is on loop diuretics, like furosemide, these loop diuretics can also lead to hyponatremia and hypokalemia. So these are the causes we can look at which can cause low sodium levels. They can cause low chloride levels and they can cause potassium. Why is it potassium hyperkalemia? Is because folate is found intracellularly. So folate is the opposite. So this, whenever you're asked causes of hyponatremia, or causes of hypokalemia, or causes of hyperkalemia, these are the ones you list. Or we can even ask in objectives what we call the multiple choice. The following are causes of hyponatremia except. So you should be always knowing that these are the causes of low potassium, low sodium, low chloride, and high potassium. Then we can also look at the causes of high sodium levels, that is causes of hypernatremia, that is increased sodium levels. It can be the same as causes of hyperkalemia. It can be the same as causes of hypokalemia. That is reduced potassium. This is increased chloride. So they are the same. And number one cause of hypernatremia is diabetes acidosis, what we call diabetes DKA, ketoacidosis. We can see this in chronic renal failure. Chronic renal failure. This is DKA. You find this one in dehydration. Whenever there is dehydration, it leads to this. Starvation can do this. We see also in people who are on treatment of aspirin, they accumulate salicylates in the urine or in the kidney. What we call salicylate poisoning can do that, or toxicity. Salicylate toxicity can do this. We see it increased potassium levels in Cushing's syndrome. And Cushing's syndrome is overproduction of aldosterone hormone from adrenal cortex. So whenever there is increased production of aldosterone hormone, or what we call hyperaldosteronism, can lead to this one we know as Cushing's syndrome, which causes hypernatremia. And whenever sodium increases, also chloride increases, because they are always found in combination as sodium chloride. So these are some of the causes of hypernatremia, or you can call it hyperkalemia or hypokalemia, decreased levels of potassium. These are the causes you can list whenever you ask the NF4 causes of increased sodium levels, increased chloride levels, and reduced potassium levels, what you call hypokalemia. You can easily list these examples. And after learning this, and we see the different causes of hypernatremia, hyperkalemia, and hypokalemia, allow me to distinguish for you briefly these conditions in case there is electrolyte imbalance, In case of electrolyte imbalance, and electrolyte imbalance, sometimes we can calculate it by looking at anion gap, whereby anion gap is equal to cations minus anions. That if I get sodium concentration plus potassium concentration majorly, then I subtract chloride plus bicarbonate, I'm able to get anion gap. And increased anion gap, sometimes they can lead to conditions like respiratory acidosis versus alkalosis. And other conditions we can look at is metabolic acidosis versus metabolic alkalosis, whereby respiratory alkalosis or respiratory acidosis, this one is increased, is due to increased concentration of hydrogen ions. How does it come about? Is due to increased partial pressures of carbon dioxide. Whenever this one respiratory means the lungs. So whenever you get an injury to the chest and you are not breathing normal, like asthma attack, maybe injury to the chest, you find there is lack of normal breathing rate. And when you're not breathing deeply, means partial pressures of carbon dioxide accumulate in lungs in the blood, because you're not exhaling both carbon dioxide produced in the tissue. And accumulation of carbon dioxide leads to formation of much bicarbonate, of much of carbonic acid, and this carbonic acid dissociates to give hydrogen ions. So accumulation of the hydrogen ions is what we are calling respiratory acidosis. Whereas respiratory alkalosis is the opposite. Respiratory alkalosis is due to decreased concentration of hydrogen ions in the blood due to reduced partial pressures, and this one is caused by increased heart rate. Maybe during exercise, strenuous exercise, and there is increased breathing rate. But here we said like chest trauma to the chest injury. We saw like asthma. You have maybe pneumonia, and there is no breathing normally. That one leads to acidosis, whereas alkalosis is due to over-breathing, whereby you deplete all the carbon dioxide, leading to reduced partial pressures of carbon dioxide, which leads to reduced hydrogen ions. So respiratory acidosis versus alkalosis, they are defined in terms of partial pressures, which brings about hydrogen ions. Whereas metabolic is different, for it is by the kidney. This one is by the kidney, whereby metabolic acidosis is due to accumulation of bicarbonate. So this one we talk in terms of bicarbonate. Here it is in terms of hydrogen ions or partial pressures of carbon dioxide. But this one is in terms of bicarbonate, whereby acidosis is decreased levels of bicarbonate, whereas alkalosis is increased levels of bicarbonate in the blood. And what causes metabolic acidosis? We see conditions like uncontrolled diabetes. We see it in starvation, whereby there is production of ketone bodies. These two guys lead to production of ketones, and these ketones are moderately acidic. They come and combine with bicarbonate, and they deplete what we call bicarbonate reserves. And whenever bicarbonate goes below 15 millimoles per liter, it leads to what we call metabolic acidosis. Then whereas metabolic alkalosis is over accumulation of the bicarbonate, whereby the kidney is fading to eliminate these bicarbonate ions. So you must know the difference between metabolic acidosis and alkalosis. Metabolic acidosis is decrease in bicarbonate reserves, majorly seen in uncontrolled diabetes and starvation, and alkalosis is increased bicarbonate, majorly seen in renal failure, whereby this increased levels of bicarbonate results into metabolic alkalosis. Then we have seen respiratory acidosis and alkalosis being in terms of partial pressures of carbon dioxide, bringing about either increased hydrogen ions, which is acidosis, or decreased hydrogen ions due to alkalosis. And that one depends on the breathing rate of an individual. Thank you so much for listening from the beginning until the end. Thank you for always learning with us. We are privileged to always have you, and we always appreciate and always share your comments for more learning. Thank you so much.